Hello everyone, Irish Commander here, and today I have a bit of an announcement. Today I would like to announce that 3 of my custom expansions are fully ready for playtesting. And seeing how, I'm not great at English. Seeing how as I am in the process of converting to version 4, I would like to open it all up to the public. Now, I can't guarantee that the links for the PDFs for the rules will be available the minute I upload this video, as I'm currently trying to figure out how to do that. However, I decided, you know what the heck, I'll go ahead and record the introduction segment. So this is going to be what I'm calling Pack 1 or Release 1 of expansion sets, as you may see up here. I'm working on my first in set 2, or whatever I end up calling these. It's called United We Fight. It's still in development. It's basically just the United Nations, adding an expansion for them. But it's not what this video is about. This video is about the first 3 I created and a little bit of basic information about them. And essentially, just letting y'all know that they're ready, and I would like for anyone who watches this, if you have an upcoming game, consider giving these a try. So first up, we got Fall of Italy. So this pretty much right here is the Italian Civil War. So if you read through here, it explains how Italy collapses and is no longer considered a major power. However, eventually there will be an outcome to the Civil War where either the Republic of Italy, which is backed by the Allies and a member of the Allies, or the Italian Social Republic, which is backed by the Axis, or in this case just Germany, can actually get Italy to become a major power again, which you can see right here in section 4. We have reunification, and they would actually gain all the technology that Italy had researched. So this expansion essentially, you can see the little bit of non-historical accuracy here, but this expansion essentially brings pretty much a whole new, or not a whole new concept, because this essentially happens with France when it splits into Free France and Vichy France. However, this is a bit more of a, I suppose you could say, an active conflict, as Free France and Vichy France, in most games I've seen at least, don't exactly fight that often. However, in this, you're basically fighting on the Italian mainland, so there's going to be a lot of conflict going on there. And, you know, it could also influence what the Italian player does up to the collapse of Italy, even if it potentially does or doesn't happen, because there are a set of conditions that the Allies have to meet in order for this collapse to happen. So, you know, it could cause the Italian player to be just a bit more cautious with what they do. So, yeah, that's Italy Fights Back. And it will be, there are a few things required for this expansion and other expansions. However, mostly for this one, if I can remember correctly, all you need is a set of roundels for the Italian Social Republic flag, and probably just something for the modern Italian flag for the Republic. Because I don't believe Historical Board Gaming has this particular symbol available, the CLN. However, if they do make it available, I would greatly like to adopt that. So, there's Fall of Italy. Next up, we got Poland Fights Back. Now this one is a bit of an interesting one. So, as we all know, in the base game, Poland has a few set rules which essentially, you know, like, Poland doesn't really have as much importance in this game as I think it should. So what I've done is I've actually given Poland some bonuses here, like they can conscript some of their own people, they have their own income, they can build an army to hold off Germany, potentially. And they're actually controlled by the Americans, which is quite an interesting concept for them. And then we have partisans, or I still need to change that to rebellions rather than partisans, or freedom fighters, I believe I'm going to call it in the final version. So, for every round Poland is independent, Ukraine and Belarus will have uprisings. So these Soviet republics may potentially become independent nations if the Soviet player isn't careful enough and they don't actually get on top of Poland and help Germany invade them. So it adds a whole new mechanic there about them. Got 2 pages there. And you can see this dictates, which territory has an uprising. You can see only one for Belarus, as most of modern Belarus is located in what's actually in Poland in this game, and part of that is, well, I believe, partitioning of Poland right here. I already had it. So if Poland is invaded by Germany, and either of these nations are independent, well, this would mean that they would annex their quote-unquote modern territories from Poland. If Warsaw falls, then they will annex the bordering territories, which would be their respective modern borders, or at least as close as you can get in this game. So yeah, that's Poland Fights Back. And in terms of what you need for this game, you're going to need a set of markers for the Warsaw Uprising. You're going to need freedom fighters, which I believe has its own marker on historical board gaming. And of course a set of roundels or flags for Belarus and Ukraine respectively, for them to have their own ones, which ironically enough I don't even have all the stuff required to play this expansion, or the other ones for that matter, which is kind of funny because I made them. So that's Poland Fights Back. One I think that maybe favored a little more than the other two. So here we've got one that I've actually, which I think Fall of Italy, I've also talked about on this channel, and Axis Miners has definitely been my most prevalent one, because this one is before I had started developing United We Fight, I was working on Axis Miners, which not exactly the best looking expansion, but yeah, this one essentially adds in the minor Axis nations. As you can see here, Hungary, Romania, Bulgaria, and Slovakia. So they're brought into the game here, and Czechoslovakia even has some different mechanics here. You can read those if you wish. You can see we got some artwork there. So here it's just talking about the formation of the nation. What do you know, I can rhyme. And let's see here. It's talking about the qualifications. And it's even talking about potentially getting Yugoslavia in future members. So you could potentially have Yugoslavia and Bulgaria join, but if they don't, then they'll probably be invaded, which is an interesting thing. Also, the Axis Miners can also gain territories. For example, Macedonia here will be annexed by Bulgaria, which would be in the Axis Miners. That is or the Minor Reich, I should begin calling it, which Bulgaria's inclusion is a requirement for Macedonia to become a part of it. And this is actually a new thing here. I've added Iraq as a little introduction because, you know, they did join the Axis in real life. So I figured including them would be an interesting concept. And of course, the dissolution of the Minor Reich. So the Soviet Union actually has a heavy part to play in this. Not to say that the Allies couldn't do anything, because certainly if they occupy all the Axis Minor territories, or the Minor Reich, if they occupy all the Minor Reich territories, then, you know, it surrenders. But the main way that it's essentially supposed to go is the Soviet Union occupying Romania and installing a communist government, which forces it to leave the Minor Reich. And if Romania leaves, then Hungary, Slovakia, and Bohemia, if it's not already a part of Germany, will become German occupied or controlled. And you can see there it's talking about Bulgaria, Yugoslavia, and Iraq if they're also in there. So yeah, that is that one. One of the most developed version, or not version, one of the most developed expansions I've done. And I suppose we could do a little bit of a preview of United We Fight, which we can do, if I can get it to work here. So United We Fight, even though it's not going to be released yet and I'm still developing it, we'll give you a little preview. So it's essentially just, like I mentioned earlier, just adding the United Nations. So you can see here, neutral nations will certainly play a much bigger role if they haven't been invaded, which neutral nations will essentially become far more important than they have before. Kind of like how Latin America war made the Latin American nations far more important than they are in the base game. So neutral nations will definitely be a bit of a point of contention here. You can see the founding members, and of course the founding of the alliance, as well as, I haven't got all of these done yet, as you can see by here, but there are essentially plans for forming the United Nations that the Allies and potentially the Soviet Union as well can pick. At the beginning of the game, they must pick which plan to go with. So you can see here the one I do have done is the 1943 plan. And there are benefits. I will be talking about the greater benefits later on, but this is just outlining it right here. And then the last thing I did here was what they'll actually be doing, the declaration of war. And this, yes, this does include the neutral nations. So whatever neutral nations are left, except for a handful, will be declaring war. And I probably will have to do some modifying in here. So that way if you're playing with Turkey at war, Winter War, or Latin America at war, so there's some compatibility. However, I may or may not get someone to assist me with that, as I am not that familiar with Latin America at war. So yeah, you can see, last thing I'll show here is the declaration of war. So the European Axis will obviously already be declared war on, but Japan may or may not enter the war, as you can see by the D6 roll that will be played. Anyways, guys, that is just the announcement of the 3 expansions I am releasing for playtesting. So those are going to be Fall of Italy, which is essentially just the Italian Civil War, and down here some interesting Soviet options if you choose to go with that. Poland fights back, gives Poland a bit better chance to fight back against Germany and the Soviet Union, as well as causing some instability in the western parts of the Soviet Union. And of course, the Axis Miners, which is the minor Axis nations forming together to make a new minor power that can heavily help Germany's war effort. But, you know, could also be dangerous, as you could lose a lot of territory if you don't play carefully. Alright guys, that was just a, it was supposed to be a quick video, but my little timer here is telling me that we're almost at 16 minutes. So, I'm going to get this video uploaded. I'm going to see what I can do about including links, so that way y'all can have a look at these, see how these expansions really are, and hopefully we'll get some flaws pointed out and, you know, get those kinks ironed out, so to speak. Alright guys, this is Irish Commander, signing off.